Although it is tough to beat the often explosive rises of stillwater trout crushing adult caddis, fishing a pupal pattern is typically more productive. My Grizzly Sedge Pupa is an ideal pattern to have in your fly box when large caddis, such as the famed traveler's sedge, are on the move. Here are the materials you will need to tie up a few of your own. So let's tie the Grizzly Sedge Pupa, and this is a caddis pupa imitation, but not for a small caddis. These are for the big traveler's sedges or the Limnophilidae sedges, the northern case makers. This is a number 8 Daiichi 1760. This is probably mid-range, 10, 8, and as big as 6 for those big travelers. It's a big bug. It's fun when you hit the hatch. It's a nice curved shank that approximates the natural profile of a caddis pupa, but I'm also going to start by building up an underbody using olive uni stretch floss on a bobbin. So I'm just going to trim that off, and I'm just using this to build up a bit of the sort of bulbous abdomen they have in sort of the middle 2/3. So I'm just building this up just a little bit. It helps eliminate overdubbing and just helps build the profile of the fly. So I'm just again building this up back and forth a little bit. That looks good. And when I'm happy with it, I'm just going to do a quick whip finish. Disengage. That's done. Now we're going to attach our tying thread, which is olive UTC 70 or MFC 80. Just build that up, trim that off. Our underbody. Now we're going to, the body is a, I guess nowadays they call it a composite loop, but I've been using this trick for close to 20 years now. It was first shown to me by Andy Burke way back at the San Mateo Sportsman Show years ago when I was down there presenting. We're both on a pro staff for a materials and tools provider that's no longer around anymore. You could use crystal chenille, or in this case I'm going to use some of this Brill and a large olive, and I'm going to blend it with regular Simi-Seal. So I'm just cutting off a relatively long length of 5-6 inches, and we're just going to secure that down the shank and then come back up in front of the hook point, and I'm going to form a dubbing loop that is about 1 inch shorter than this length of Brill. It's important. It has to be shorter, at least 1 inch. Now close that loop up like you've seen me done on other flies on my channel here, and we're going to come right back up to about the 2/3, 3/4 point. It's a busy fly in the front portion. Lots going on. We got thoraxes and wing cases and legs and swimmerettes and heads and all kinds of things to go on here. So we're going to use a dubbing tool to form our dubbing loop that's going to combine Simi-Seal dubbing with the Brill. And the choice of the dubbing hook is important. These crochet style hooks, cowbird hooks, work best. So I'm going to insert that into the thread loop and let it hang. And then for the body colorations, you could use, this is a dark olive. You got to match the coloration of your local caddis pupa, but olives usually work well. This is a peacock, so this is a dark olive. This is a newer color in the Simi-Seal line called a dirty olive that I like. So we're going to use this. I used to be able to get seal years ago called Mole. It was also a popular choice as well. So what we're going to do is take some of this Simi-Seal dubbing, and again, I can see through this. See? Not a lot, doesn't look like a lot. And I'm going to open that dubbing loop up, insert the dubbing into the loop. I'm trying to insert the dubbing in so the fibers are more or less horizontal. evenly distributed along the length of the dubbing loop. I don't have any barren spots. I have nice even applications of dubbing all the way along. So we've got the dubbing loop loaded. I'm going to now pull my Brill in beside, parallel the dubbing loop, come underneath the hook like so, rotate the hook one full turn and hold this. See how I've come across 90 degrees, give it a couple of twists, and now I've combined my olive Brill with my Simi-Seal. And I'll just keep spinning that until it rotates out fiber 90 degrees. Then I'm going to come in with my dubbing brush and just try and free up as much of this combined dubbing loop. This is the beauty of dubbing loops. You can do so many things with them, including combining different materials together. You can use dubbing loops to control delicate materials, which is what we're going to do for the thorax with the aftershaft fibers we're going to use on Grizzly Marabou plume. But we just want to brush that out, and now that's complete and we're ready to wind it forward to form our body. Now we're just going to take our finished dubbing noodle and just close touching turns, wind this forward to form our body. Once you end up, it doesn't look like we've got much dubbing at first after you twist it together with the, but you end up with this nice dubbing with lots of little UV highlights sticking out of it now. All right, I'm just going to roll this up right up to the tying thread. Right up, I'll go one more time and we'll tie off. Trim away the excess. And that's a mess, isn't it? Well, we're going to give it a little bit of a haircut, some trimming. So first of all, we'll just sweep those fibers back, make sure that's good and secure. And then we can come in and I'm going to brush it out a little bit just to free up any of these fibers. This is also going to help create like a little sheath, if you will, around. Just add some wonderful translucency to this, but we can come in, try not to block the camera here, just sort of trim everything to a little more reasonable caddis pupa shape. And just rotate that around. You remember, when it gets wet, it's all going to slim down, right? So don't be too crazy. You can always give it more trims on the water, but blow all that off. But you can see how that's, I'll moisten my fingers a little bit and see how that's going to look like a body of a big caddis pupa. These caddis pupa get big. Really interesting and fun late spring, early summer hatch. Drive to try wild, especially in the evening. Get some great dry fly activity. Big Mikulak sedges, tom thumbs, which are already on my YouTube channel. But oftentimes, as with most hatch situations, fishing the nymph or the pupa is often your better bet. So we've got a nice body there. Now we need to build the thorax and the legs and all the other things. So I'm going to put a wing case on. And we're going to use some Scud shellback and dark olive, 1/8. And we're just going to secure this, remove our tying thread forward. Come up and envelop. Sorry, just lay that there. We're going to come up, wrap around, trap it down, and hold it on top and secure it back onto the body slightly. Okay, so that's in place. You can even go back a little further, I think. Just slowly walk the thread back. Like I said, this gets busy. We've got a thorax to go in here and then a small head. Alright, now the thorax, as the fly's name suggests, is made up of grizzly, or at least the aftershaft feathers from a grizzly marabou plume. You could also use pheasant rump as well. So what's an aftershaft feather? Well, there's a grizzly marabou plume. This is the aftershaft feather. This small secondary marabou-like feather that has lots of movement to it. It's but very delicate. The stem is very thin. If you tried to tie this in and wind it, you're probably going to be pretty frustrated because it'll break. So this again is where a dubbing loop comes in handy. So we're going to go about half the distance of the hook eye. And we've taken the the aftershaft feather off one. I'm going to use 2 plumes here, roughly of equal width. So I like to come in and trim out the the butt section where it attached to the stem, and just basically pluck away the narrow tip portion. The goal is to try and get an aftershaft feather that's about the same width. So we'll come in and do it twice, trim the butt. Come in, pluck that tip section out, so I have a width that's even. Now, you've probably seen my video, if you've seen my videos before, or seen me tie, or, I don't use dubbing wax in dubbing loops, but this is one application I will use. So I've got some high-tack wax, got everything stuck to it like most dubbing wax containers seem to have, and I'm just going to come up and touch it. I don't want big gobs of it hanging off, but I want to make this tacky. I'll put the lid back on. And I'm going to take one of my prepared plumes and I'm going to lay it so that the the stem of the feather sticks to that tacky thread right down the middle. Just like that. So it's in place. Right? Just using it to hold it. Now I'm going to take my dubbing tool, a dubbing spinner, and form the loop. Bring the thread back up, straight up, and just walk the tying thread back to close that loop right up to the end of the body, the base of the wing case there. And then move it forward, leaving about 2 eye widths, and start spinning slowly. And get a little bit of spin in there, and that'll start to twist up and travel up. And then you can come in, and once you got a half a dozen or so twists in, then you can really twist it up. And that's not going to, if you twist too fast, sometimes you risk having all those little fibers stand out. Now you got basically a little marabou. But this is just going to move and breathe in the water, because the Caddis pupa, though they're more known to many moving in 4 to 6 inch spurts when they're on their final emergent swim, like chironomids, calabatus nymphs, there's a staging period where the nymphs are active along the pupa are active along the bottom, just sort of moving around, and they quite slow moving. So you can fish this pattern very slowly on a floating line and let the sink, or a clear intermediate hover line, and very slow hand twist retrieve with pauses, because when they're staging like this, they don't move fast. So having this after shaft thorax just provides additional movement to the fly to suggest that sort of writhing pupa. I've seen them in my aquariums on occasion, and they're just right along the bottom, hardly moving at all, just sort of pulsing and sort of moving around very, very slowly, and they're very helpless at this stage too. So if a trout sees that motion, rest assured he's probably going to chomp it. Okay. And now we're going to come up with our tying thread, tie off that dubbing loop, and we come in thumb and forefinger and wind right back on this. I want to have 2 eye widths at least of head exposed there. So I've round back onto that slightly, it's not going to hurt it. And now I move my thumb and finger and push that back. And then we're going to add our hackle, just again to help move the legs and some contrast. And you could use partridge, but I love these Brahma hens from Whiting. This is the white dyed olive. So I've got one feather, and I've chosen a feather that the fibers are going to reach back 3/4 to body length. And I'm just going to strip away the excess. I'm going to come in, tie that in wet fly style with that most prominently marked or convex side of the feather facing forward. And then I'm going to dig out my hackle pliers. We're only going to put a couple of wraps here. We don't want much. And again, we're just going to come up and I'm going to see how I've swept those fibers back. Help sweep them back. There's one wrap. Two, 1.5, not much. Come in, tie off, and then I'm going to take all of this and fold it back. Sweep everything down and back and secure it in place. Grab that tip and just ripped it right out. And we can come in, and if it's fibers on top, we want to clear a path, so I don't mind if I lose a few of the top fibers. Again, we're just trying to get that overall, when this gets wet, it looks bulky now, when it gets wet it's going to slim right down. Now I'm going to pull over my wing case. That's going to help define it as well. And truthfully, these large caddis pupa can make passable dragonfly nymph imitations too. They're just buggy. We got all that there. You can see we got, look, we got after shaft, we got a little bit of modeling from the feather. And then the other thing that's prominent with larger caddis pupa are their hind legs that are elongated and feather-like and used to kick and scull. So we've got some of these barred Sexi floss legs. And we're just going to secure them along the sides like this. About even, I'll time in a little longer. So I'm going to come in up near the hook eye. I'm going to hold them in place along the side. Get them where I want them. I'm going to hold them in along the side. Controlled wraps, not super tight. It's okay if they hang out a little bit. Come forward. See if we can get this to fold flat side down. This one's doing it. Sometimes you have to tie them in separately. We're going to wrap that one back to the same place. And then the last thing to do to all this clutter and corruption at the top is I just can't beat Peacock Herl. So we're going to take a single strand of Peacock Herl. Trim off the tip, tie this in right there, and then we're just going to, could obviously dub a head too if you wanted to. I've seen some tyers actually put the little eyeballs in that the actual pupa do have, but we're just going to suggest that darkened head area. I think it finishes the fly nicely. Build up a nice neat thread head. Pull down on the thread, snap your Peacock Herl forward, and then we're going to add a little adhesive to hold everything together, a little super glue on the tying thread. Hold everything back out of the way, finish everything up. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Disengage. Trim. And then we'll come back in and gather both legs. I'm not pulling on them. I just have control of them. Make one cut. And there I have my prominent swimmerettes. These are going to almost water boatman-like fashion move through the water and suggest that sculling pupa. We've got subtle movement built in with the aftershaft feathers. We've got the general look and translucency. There you go, a Grizzly Sedge Pupa. One of my favorite caddis pupa patterns that you can use when the caddis are active as a dragonfly imitation, or it's just got that scruffy, buggy, looks good to eat. Add a few of these to your stillwater fly box. Keep them in the caddis section, but use them for other things too. For more information on fly fishing, and stillwater fly fishing in particular, please visit my website at flycraftangling.com. Here you will find fishing tips, fly patterns, articles, information regarding my seminars and schools, along with links to my blog and mine and Brian Chan's online stillwater fly fishing store. You can also visit our store directly at stillwaterflyfishingstore.com. While you're visiting my site, please join my mailing list to receive my educational newsletters. You can also follow me through my social media channels. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and give this video a like. Please take the time to watch my other videos as well. Thanks for watching.